for anyone who doesn't realize it, the current so-called government shutdown isn't because they need money to build a wall. It's because they have no damn money at all. And they will not get any from anywhere until they know that they are not the bosses here. They were put here as trustees and fiduciaries. They've already abrogated that. And we don't intend to back off. And when I say we, I'm speaking for all the Moors, because we're not going to take the crap anymore, and we're not going to get up in arms to change it. We're just going to change it the way we do things, by doing the things we want to do. And then if they don't let up and they don't do it, then stuff is going to start happening to them. They know this. They know who we are. They know that many of the ones who are awake could put this thing to bed in a minute, but then it's going to leave everybody else being a damn follower like they've been. And we're not interested in followers. We're interested in everybody walking together. We're one. And we want to be able to enjoy the fruits of our lands. And the lands are all ours. The fruits are all ours. And we don't have a problem with people sharing it, with anyone sharing it. But we want to make sure we get everything that we want out of it, because we put it there for all of that. And so to do that, though, you have to operate in law, because nature does not operate outside law. Nature will give and give and give. And finally, when it keeps giving and something can't work with it, it says, okay, I got to take that out. That's like when you get a field that get overrun with weed and stuff like that, you burn it. Or you get stuff going on with a whole bunch of things are rotting in the factory and stuff like that, you shut down that factory and demolish it. Or the building, 50-story, 80-story high-rise, is pieces starting to jump off whenever they want without permission. Most times they jump off without permission when they do jump off. I'm not talking about people jumping out the window, but well, what do? You demolish it, right? With controlled explosives or something. So the earth is going to take care if you don't take care. And we need, that's where we're on right now, so that's why we need to get busy doing the things that we say we want to do by our own mindset and force of will. Islam, Victor. And that is as far as minority and majority is concerned, two things. One, the minority they're talking about is minors in mind. That the mind of children trying to contract and operate with adults. Now the reason they can say that is because they have received the proper information and education and the proper format to use that. Our people didn't. However, our Well, well, that even, okay, that is a clever thing that the same people who you call white supremacists, that's a clever thing they are using, okay? When you get out there marching up and down, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's two things. You're calling yourself something, which means you're dirt, you're nothing, you have no value in the eyes of the law. You're calling yourself crap. That's
Yeah,
what
you
you're
casting a
doing.
spell.
And then, by the way, that's the nice part, okay? The other part about it is that you are actually saying their lives matter and yours don't because they are the black ones. And you're so dumb you don't even know that you're not black. Okay? You're white because black and white in law means two different things. And there's no black people and white people. But your status is white. But you go and say, well, I'm noble, I'm lord, I wear a fez, but I'm black. Black people don't wear fez. They get knocked on their asses for wearing fezzes. Okay? They get beat for wearing fezzes. They don't wear turbans. Black people don't wear turbans. The only black people that wear turbans and fezzes are the ones that we have given permission to. And when they wear their fezzes, they have to put certain things on them. We give them names they can put on it. And if they try to walk around wearing fezzes with none of that stuff on it, they get their butts beat. Yes, all of them. All of them. That's a sign that they are subservient to you. Correct. Correct. It's a foolishness that we've been taught, and we believe that keeps us thinking the minor mindset. So that we need to deal with. Yeah. Well, don't they say they're free and accepted? Okay. If they're free and accepted, and you are the Muslim, you are the Mason, what the hell do you need from them? Today I was in Savannah, Islam. So, was somebody else saying something just now?
Yes, this is Gail. This is Gail.
Yes, Gail.
I would like to make a comment or something.
Please do. All right.
How many Moorish Americans are we in this now in the consulate? How many number of people do you have?
We have somewhere in the neighborhood of between 800 and 1,000 since we started to register to record last year. We're adding about between 50 and 100 a week. And just to answer the rest, there are millions of Moorish Americans who have been keeping quiet because of what the temples did to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that the temples are...
How do we get more people to be aware of who they are? Because some people are just a lost cause.
No, they're not. No, they're not. They're not lost. They're not lost. They're right now just like most everybody on here was a couple of years ago. You know, they are just not yet feeling okay, you know, this is a good time. Because remember, let's see, Reggie, can you mute your mic, please? Islam, thank you. The whole the thought that we are not able to get somebody awake or not, that's correct. Because we can't wake anybody up. But everybody will wake themselves up. All
Mhm.
they all they're doing is as they go around, they're picking up information. Remember, information is fungible. When you move around it, it moves in and out of you. People are picking it up, and when they get the keys, they'll come one morning, they're going to wake up and say, "What the?" And then
Mhm.
you got to wake to more who wants to know a bunch of stuff. That's the time that you're preparing for. So when you talk to one and they say, "Oh, you're a Moor. Man, I've been looking for one all over." Yeah, but you were looking in the wrong direction because you'll
Mhm.
never find a Moor outside of you until you find a Moor inside of you. So once you get that, then it's Katie bar the door. And that is what we spend so much time talking about. Some of us spend a lot of time talking about the physical aspects and stuff because we think that's important, and it may be important, but it's so minutely important as to be almost with no value in the larger scheme of things. But we have been taught or mistaught that that's the way things work. So we have to make the adjustments, start to correct ourselves as to how we work things.
Well,
Because,
I was just looking here on the website, and it has something out here that says Moors claim your vast estate, 500 autographs.
yeah, that's an old thing up there. We've already got more than that. We had
Okay.
we had over 700 last time it was checked, because many Moors who still didn't come in with the consul because they no, and again let me make I've been making a generalized statement which I need to correct. It's not the temples that have been causing the problems. It's the people who have appointed themselves as temple leaders. They
Mhm.
are the dirty, rotten pieces of what Noble Drew Ali say that only crows or scavengers eat. They're the ones who have that, and it's not all. It's not all of them, but many of them were being so beaten up or sold out by the ones, so they stayed down. They kept their heads down. And now many of them are lifting their heads up and calling and talking and wanting to really get involved with it because they want to tell and teach and show their people that this is the right way to do it, that civics
Okay.
is
But
important. So they're doing
I
it.
know of, I know of a lot of little groups around that say that they are Moors, and they want to charge people to have classes to teach things to them in regards to how to do certain paperwork,
Yeah.
and they're charging for it. And I'm just thinking, as a people, and because of who we are, and maybe I'm wrong. If I misspeak, please correct me. I understand that we are worth more than we value ourselves, and that we may have access to get to our worth. Then, if that's the case, why do they charge to do this when they have the opportunity to get access to their own wealth? Um, and it's something that we should be doing for each and every
Can I?
person who
Okay.
don't.
I get the gist of what you're saying. Let me ask you this:
Okay.
if you had today direct access to picking up 100 grand a month and you could teach that to everybody, how much would you charge them?
If I had access to 100 grand a month and I could teach this to everybody, I wouldn't charge them anything. I
Damn
would just.
straight. Okay, okay. Here's the thing. After you pay them all that, if you these people that tell you they could teach you to do this and teach you to do that and want you to pay them, how much are they charging? A tidy little sum, right?
Oh no, these people are charging a great deal of money.
I know. I'm saying
Like
that's the
you
point I'm making. The point I'm making is that they're charging that because they really can't teach you anything. So that's why
exactly.
they're looking to make it off of you. But isn't that what the pastors used to do? But they were
Exactly.
collecting it for Jesus, right?
So
You
right.
know,
So then
so
that's what I'm saying. They are fraud. They are
they're
fraud.
crooks. They're crooks.
Okay. Okay.
No, Moorish America, this movement and the consulate, we don't charge for anything. We ask for donations if people do
And I
have it.
understand that that is needed. I understand that.
Explaining something. We don't do that. And the only things we will get allodial fees for are a particular benefit that we have to put additional work into it, other than just the where you say give you the information and you can do it, because
Right. I
everybody
understand
could,
that. You
everybody
understand
could.
fees?
I'm making a point to you because you're asking a good question, and there's nothing wrong with your question. Okay, I like your
Okay.
question because it actually gives a rostrum to talk about it. And the thing is that the processes that are on for you to learn, many people will come in that know enough of it already, and they will come now and take that process and then they turn it into something else and then they charge you for it. What
Mhm.
we have done though is, and this is what, and we can do this because we started this the right way. We started this just like it started to fall. We put the consular courts back into motion. We then put the supreme judiciary after putting the things together that needed. And because each one of us are supreme, each one of you are supreme, each one of you now can start doing that stuff. And you could either ally with what we're doing or start up your own. But you go about trying to get followers to build your own country and stuff and see how long that's going to last. You know, because we're not dealing with building our own
We make our
country.
mistake.
Huh?
Why can't we just stick? That's why I think we make our mistake. Why can't we just stick together and do it as a whole, as a group?
Because we're Moors. And why, you say, why can't we stick together? Because we're Moors
Yes,
and
I mean, if there's one, like I
we're
see you have
ordinary. We're ordinary. We're mean. We're selfish.
no,
We're
but
just, but I'm trying to explain. I hear what you're asking. But you don't have to ask me. Read the Circle 7. Read what Noble Drew Ali talks about. Read the literature. Read all those things. Because all of that information is there. We know it. The people know it that are causing the disruption. But they have been getting paid by the Europeans to keep doing it. And they've been taking the coin.
Okay.
And we're working to say that, hey guys, come on. Yeah, maybe you thought you had to do that. Now stop it. Fix your damn self up. Correct yourself. You know, in times 700, 800, 1,000 years ago, any Moor did that, off with his head. And the family's head. And the family of the family's head. We're not doing that. We aren't even trying to try any one of them. We're just saying, hey, Grand Sheikh, stop the crap you're doing. Come on. Teach your people the things that you should. to be what? To be better
Great.
Americans, you know, because the American national is by far every one of you, like I said, there's 16 trillionaires on the line right now, multi-trillionaires, multi, gazillionaires, okay? It's well in excess of that because, yes, because the world as you know it is not anything like what you've been taught in any school or pretty much any other places of so-called higher learning.
Mhm.
The world as you know it is so huge, and you read it when you were going through Bibles and stuff, when it reads about worlds without end, but you didn't believe a darn thing about it because you still came out of there thinking you're spinning on a ball, you know, but you're not. You're not. But when and by the way, we're going to go just about 10 more minutes with this, and then we're going to
Brother
go into
Byron.
some of the reasons about how we work to fix this stuff, okay? And then you'll see how it makes sense. Um, Islam? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, they are going to be worried if that is all that their future is, because, you know, life always looks for living, right? And so the oppression that we think that we've been under is 99.99999% self-caused. And most of our people don't know it. They want to turn around and find somebody to point a finger at. But the lesson I always point to that. You go ahead and point your finger at anybody and then look at your hand and see what it's doing. You point a finger at anybody, a finger, not all. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's bull. See, people play with your minds. You point, if I point a finger at you, I'll point three back at me, because that is the natural way your hands work. So when we're bullshitting people and saying that you caused me to do this and you caused me to do that, you're telling yourself that you 3 times more than they did it to you. If you look, Islam, Islam, if you look at that taking martial arts or taking anything at all, every move and any move in martial arts is only showing you how energy moves. And when you recognize that your mind is what really controls energy, because the very move that's being demonstrated with your hands and your feet and whatever is your mind doing it, when you recognize that you can do that with everything all the time, that's when you start getting a little hint of what those people know about you that you don't know about you. And then when we get told that we have to go and pick up this amulet for this and this kind of a gun is an amulet. A grenade is an amulet. It's a sigil with power in it. Their sigils are big. Your sigils are microscopic and humongously more forceful than all of theirs combined. But you have to know this. You have to know thyself. This is the important part of this thing, to know yourself. If you don't know yourself, you know nothing, yet you may have read everything. And if you know yourself, though you may not have read anything, you know everything. You just then have to get familiar with yourself. And I don't mean familiar like whatever. Um,
Stop wasting our time, Vic.
huh? Uh-oh. What was that was said just now? I think somebody was after you. Okay. Okay. Um, uh, I'll entertain another minute or two of this. Any other pressing questions that have anything to do with what we've talked about so far today? Victor, give some people a chance to talk. Leave the silence by itself for a minute, okay? Islam.
Peace, brother Jeremy Moore. This is brother Byron. I've just came into the chat. So I don't know what the topic was for today.
This was a Q&A we were just going through, Byron, and the questions were, general things about how to operate and how to do things and stuff like so. We were looking at it from the standpoint of being the Moor that's doing the stuff, then asking as the minor what to do or how to do it. So that's where we were, and it's about questions and answers about certain procedures and how to get them done. Islam?
Islam.
Did you have a question that was, and again, this is nothing about how to work this process or that. We were talking in general about a few of the questions, and it's recorded, so you'll be able to access it anyway. So you'll be able to go through and check out what was said, and if you have any questions about it, you can formulate your questions and bring them up. I'm about ready in a couple minutes to move into the other segment of the class, and I want to just give people a chance to see if they had anything more to talk about what we have already covered. So I don't want to go over anything or a new thing until we cover that. Islam?
Islam.
Correct. You never had to have it done perfectly, because any way you do it is perfect. You can type out your appellation. You want to make sure that when you put them, you do it in the proper way. If you're putting your appellation in black, you're nuts. You don't know enough. You need to be, huh? I type mine up all the time. You know, you can do that. Look, you you are you are a Moor. You are a Moorish American national. You are man, man, woman. You can do whatever the heck you can support and stuff that you can't support. Which is why, remember when we talked about appellations and what you put in your appellation? You know, if you say you are Ali and Day, and then you can't do magic or what they call magic, and you can't control elements, and you can't stop storms, and go underwater for an hour with no breathing equipment, then you're lying, and you're going to get your butt kicked. Yes, you're told use bay or ill. Why? Because both of those. Well, no, when you do Ali, you know how to do Ali things. And if you don't know to do Ali things, that aspect is not yet awake in you. And if you put it out there, you're going to get tested to that aspect's level. And if you pass, you pass because you don't do it. Good. Know yourself. Study yourself. Study yourself over and over and over. Who gave it to you? What did they know about it? They're Muslim. Islam. They are Muslim. Most of them don't have a clue what the hell they are. Okay? Now, I'm saying they're a Muslim. You know what a Muslim is? What? No, not Muslim. Muslim. Do you know what they are? The definition is that they submit to Allah. Muslims, Victor. Muslims know they are Allah. But you have to hear this and you have to spend time knowing what it is. Remember, you have to slow down. You have to slow down because the faster you talk, the less you pick up. And your mind, your brain will want you to go fast because it doesn't want you to pick it up. Now, we've been through that a long time, right? Remember that. Because it's still after you. It's pissed off for what you learned and what you picked up already. Yep. So what I'm looking for now, I'm looking to pull up the class resource book that I'm going to use, and then we're going to go into a little bit of real work. And we do that one. And where's my... We had an interesting time on this bit of work last week, and I'm going to go to where we can take up a little bit more. And I'll show it on the screen in a minute, so don't anybody get all upset. Okay. Ancient and mystic records. Nope. Don't want to go through those idiots again. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna show this now so we can get some stuff on the screen. Start video. And I don't want that one on. Okay, what the heck happened to my online screen? There we go. Ancient structure. Can anybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
It's on.
No.
No, who is that? Wanda?
Let me see. Okay, I can now.
It's on.
What screen should it be?
At the top of it, you're seeing from Secret Oriental Masonry, and you should be seeing page 29 at the top.
No.
It's long.
Yes. Are you seeing that?
No.
Is anybody else seeing that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, if one person can see
Yeah.
it, everybody else should be seeing the same thing if their computer is set up right. So if we need to do a change, what is it that you're seeing on yours?
Well, I logged into the MoorishamericanConsulate.org. That's where I am. And
Okay,
what I'm seeing.
that's not where this is.
Okay.
This is
Where should-
actually on my screen. Did you hold on a moment? Let me make
I see
sure.
page 29, Oriental Masonry.
Yes.
And what's that website?
Okay. Who am I speaking to, please?
Gail?
Gail?
Yes.
Okay. Is it Gail Turner? Because I see.
Gail Turner.
Ah, that's interesting. Because I see you logged in here, Gail, and I'm not at all logged into the website, and I'm screen sharing right now. So what you might want to do is, if you're looking at the website, just turn that off.
She can touch the
Okay.
tab at the top of her screen.
And now, do you see it?
I don't. What
Islam?
should I be like?
Islam?
Yeah.
At the bottom of your screen, if your icons are at the bottom of the screen, just take your pointer across there and the screen will pop back up to where you were. You said you were going over to the Moorish American website, so you can, your tab at the top will have it on there, or either those little icons at the bottom, whichever one you touch and you see your screen, just touch on that screen, it'll pop back up.
Okay.
You got it now?
I think I do. Let's see.
What you should see is the little phone sitting at the bottom of your screen, and it'll have some red numbers on it. Mine is showing 21 right now, which said I had 21 messages I haven't looked at, or 24 actually. But if you click on that, or you just touch your cursor on it, it'll show free conference call and meeting viewer. You click the meeting viewer, and that'll bring this thing back up to you.
Okay.
Did that work?
Yeah, it's coming up. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Then, because you can see the screen, I'm going to ask you to start reading from.
No, don't ask me because I'm not sure if I'm in the right place yet.
Okay, or you should be seeing, if you're seeing the screen, and you're seeing me move stuff up and down, if you look at verse 12 would be just under Denmark, Sweden, and Russia. Do you see that?
No, I don't.
Okay, I'll read then. From what people soever Americans descended, or in whatever manner that vast continent was originally furnished with human beings, it is certain that the first inhabitants brought with them a system of mysteries which they applied to the purposes of religious worship. The lying gap. Okay. And though this system in process of time was almost entirely lost amongst the scattered tribes which led an erratic life in its deepest wilds, yet many of the truths on which it was founded were preserved in a deteriorated form by the two great nations which had planted themselves on each side of the Isthmus of Panama. The people who erected the obelisks in Egypt and covered them with hieroglyphics, who wrapped mummies, embalming them with the greatest care, knew no more about the pyramid builders than we do today. These majestic, voiceless sentinels, the pyramids, with heads uncovered and lifted heavenward, stood there on the broad plain silent and dumb, with no one to explain their origin, when Egyptian civilization began. In other words, what we just read there is that the pyramids were there before the Egyptian civilization began. Yet they call them Egyptian pyramids, or built by Egyptians. We're going to come back to that. I just want to continue a little further first. Of this there can be no doubt. The pyramids were built by Atlanteans, long centuries before Egypt was a civilized country. Why then were they built in Egypt instead of on some part of what is now America? Because Egypt was then the center of the earth, and the Atlanteans, with their vast knowledge, sought the center, for that will stand as long as time. That no one knew why the pyramids were built is a wrong conclusion, for we, of the mystic order of Masonry, know that they were built for no other purpose than for supreme initiation. For it must be remembered that there have ever been two religions founded on the one principle, the one for the priests and the other for the people. Not only does the initiation in mystic Oriental Masonry explains the very foundation of all religions, but it gives the key to the pyramids and unlocks the doors of the same. I'll read one little part more of this and then we'll go see about some. The shape of the pyramid itself has one of the deepest meanings to the initiate. A pyramid, triangular form of it, signifies fire, and the cubical form, the earth visited by fire. Fire in turn signifies love, God, the fatherhood of God. That's a dirty lie too. Well, no, correction, because fatherhood is feminine. Could the initiate have built a more lasting monument to the fact that they, above all others, knew God as but few men knew him at the present day? I'm going to hold at that and see if anybody has anything that's picked up from what I've read so far that might have piqued their interest.
And it's curious that the fact that well, I guess that they're stating that the pyramids were already there before they were calling it Egypt, or the Egyptians were there, and
Correct.
that Atlantis, which we know was developed before Egypt, and Egypt hadn't even been developed yet. So it gives you a different perspective on time and basically in the importance of Egypt.
Exactly, and makes you think differently about the so-called New World, right?
True.
Because this was called the New World, and we know now that the reason the thing drifted down into being called the New World, it's not that because they were calling it the New World Order, but they dropped that last part off until the 1960s and 1970s when it started to be mentioned. Prior to that, it was only written in books that were written like 1984, which was written in the 40s or 30s, and those kind of books started talking about the New World Order. But that's because it had to be introduced that way to get to the point where you could get to democracy and all of those things when no such thing existed 100 years ago. And that was the jump off on that New World Order. And that was, remember, he was talking about after the so-called wall had come down, the Berlin Wall. Right. Yes.
I had a
Go
question,
ahead.
Yeah, this is there. I had a question in regards. You said the pyramids was there before the Egyptians.
Yeah.
And so, what's the time relation between most of the Egyptians was aware of the pyramids and all these passageways? I watch a lot of History Channel and they show different passageways and where they put certain tombs and stuff. Did they symbolically, spiritually know what the pyramid's purpose was as they started to exist? Did they, it was already existing prior to their.
Yeah, it existed way before that place was there because, again, New World, Old World. This is the Old World. The Americas is the Old World. And you remember when you nationalized?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
How long ago did you fill out your nationalization forms?
It's been, 2 weeks now?
Aha, okay. Have you read those forms a few times over?
I read now a few times. I've been taking it very moderate and reading each, because what I've been doing was trying to write down some of the words that I had tried to Google and really find the origin, the meaning. So I hadn't read it. I've been very thorough in each passage I read to really define what each word meant, because some of the words I didn't know what the meaning was.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. And
so
if I may, before I'm not even going to try to explain anything yet, but I would suggest one thing. In your reading and your studies, I know everybody's told to write down everything and take notes and write notes. I don't take notes on anything, and I don't talk about anything from notes. But because I have trained my brain to stop cutting out things that I want to remember, so my mind can pass things easily through my brain to me, because my brain is trained to act and work with my mind. so that together the higher and the lower self can work to come closer together. I do that by, I don't take notes about anything. I commit them to memory. First, the brain type memory, which the brain only holds certain things because it's a limited memory holding capacity. But I commit it to brain, and then brain commits it to mind, and then they set up the connection so they work seamlessly. That
Well,
way, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying that's kind of one of the personal issues I have. I have some things I can remember 20 years ago, but 5 minutes ago I can forget where I put my keys at. So I mean, it's like,
Now, isn't that something there? Now, 20 years ago, how old were you?
20 years ago I was 27.
And up to that time, what were the things you used to do up to the time of 20 years ago? What were the things you liked to do?
I was a very athletic. I was very recreational. Sports was a big, major part of my life at that time. You know,
Right.
Sports. Yeah. So.
And so you had to commit many moves to memory, right?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't conscious of it. You know, I just.
Yeah, but look at whether you were you were conscious of it, because if you weren't conscious, you couldn't use it. You only use what you're conscious of. There's no such thing as unconsciously using something. You know, your mind will do things that you are not conscious of doing, but when you are using it, you're conscious of it. But what you were doing in athletics, because of the repetition of things you did, you would train your brain to think faster on the things you want.
Muscle memory.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
yes.
don't know. Well, it's like I enjoyed the aspect of doing what I was doing at the time, and I'm enjoying learning what I'm learning now in regards to this new information I'm getting. But it's so much. It's just that it's overwhelming. I can't retain.
Okay.
I'm trying to retain.
Because you're teaching yourself already the way that you learned from somebody. When you say the words overwhelming, it's overwhelming. It really isn't, because if you spend a little bit of time and check it, you're going to see that 2 or 3 days from now, you're talking about it like it's old hat. Because it's really not overwhelming, it just is because of the way you've trained to take in or bring out information, you know. So it's a matter of, no, you can pick it up real quickly. And the reason I'm saying this to you is you wouldn't be the first person I've taught that. I taught hundreds, maybe, I would say 700, 800, 900 children and adults to think a little differently, just a little bit, and suddenly their mind power just blossomed. So
well,
you know,
read,
you can go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I was saying I can read maybe. I would say 2 paragraphs, or maybe I would say 2 or 3 paragraphs, and I would, for some reason, I have to stop because my mind would drift to something else, and I don't know why, but it is 2 or 3 paragraphs as much as I can just really try to take the information in and really digest it before I can, you know, my mind fluttered to something else for some reason. I don't know.
Again, you can do that way if you want to pick up something, or you can do it by just, hey, go over the stuff you like, you know, and you don't have to read every word that you see in the book. You pick up a book and you want to find out something about it, you generally pick it up because of something in the name.
Right.
So go look to see what the heck is it about the name and what those things are, and then you put that book away. But everything you have looked at in the book, your mind records it. Your brain now will not bring it out unless you bring it back to mind.
Right.
Because your brain is trained to work only in the physical. And so the brain is only interested in what's physical. That's why he says, if I can't see it, it's not real. If I can't see it, I won't believe it. While in fact, your mind generates the things you see. So it's just a matter of starting to think a little differently and do things a little differently, and in no time. And I say no time, not figuratively, but actually. In no time, you've got it. I mean, it's that easy. And if you wish, a couple times we can spend some time talking and going over things when I'm not in a class mode, so we can just go through certain things and you'll see. But for now, keep doing what you're doing if you like that, or start working at changing it to something you'll like better. And it's not hard.
Right.
Islam. Anybody else had anything about what we've read so far? Because no, you did ask the part about how did they know how did they know about the pyramids and all of that stuff? Well, what's the name of the civilization that you hear in his story first blossomed in the Middle East, or so-called Egypt?
Mesopotamia?
No, what they call the first civilization that showed up there, maybe around 8500 BC, 8,000 to 7500 BC, as they call it.
Egyptian?
Yeah, Egypt. Yeah.
Egyptian, yeah.
What was it?
Egyptian?
Okay, somebody else was saying something.
Sumerian.
Correct. Yeah.
I just said Egyptian.
Okay, but listen to that again. Somebody else say the word, the what? The
Sumerian?
Sumerian, right?
Sumerian, yeah.
Okay. And they say that came up about 7,500 to 8,000 BC. But the key thing about it is that they're talking about Sumerian, because that is talking about there's two letters important there, the MR, because they say that comes from ancient languages. So if it's ancient language, first written language, Medu Neter. Medu Neter did not have vowels. So Mer didn't have an E or a U or an O. It had an M and an R. And that's Mer. That's Moor. We call that Moor, we call that Moor, we call that Murray, we call that all kinds of things now. What was that? Yeah, Mr., right? Yeah. And all of these things have to do with things that pass in front of us all day long. But because our brain hasn't been trained to let everything through, because the brain says, man, I want to live this life. I don't care about any of the other things that don't help me to make you live. My job is to make you live in the physical. So I don't want you to be thinking about all of those mystic things, because that stuff, I might lose my job someday. And then that big dude that's looking over me, which is the mind, might stamp my butt out.
Hello?
Islam?
Hey, man, I got a client that want to get their hair done, and I might have to drive through. They say like 35 minutes or from here. Could you walk that way and tell me until I'm done?
What?
All right, so um, the bull Anu is from that civilization that's on our documentation then.
Okay, yeah, the civilization that's over in Hikupta, which is what we call Egypt, was actually built by us.
Hmm.
And ancient Egypt is really not ancient over there. Ancient Egypt is ancient over here.
Hmm.
And to people who have done any kind of studies, you know that all the places that are found in the Grand Canyon and stuff, and all the studies, if you can do studies for the next 10, 15, 20 years on that, and you won't miss anything that's over in so-called Egypt. And by the way, there's something coming up which we'll be putting out a letter in the next couple of days, which will show quite an interesting thing about uh, both the Grand Canyon and about places in New Mexico, which lead you off into that. But that's for a couple of days down the road. When you see it, then you'll know it. But the reason Egypt or Hikupta was built was because it was known that sooner or later, and it was sooner it was going to happen because we didn't deal in sooner or later. Whenever anything, we knew exactly what day it was going to happen. We knew that there was going to be some major catastrophes, not accidental, but actually was being worked on by people to make things happen over here. And those things all happened um, around 4,000 to 4,500 years, say about 3,500 BC, up to about 2000 BC. All of that stuff was going on. And I found some other information since I was doing the work in this uh, in this very book that we're looking at here right now. Found some other information about Tartaria or Tartary that um, these guys are all talking about it too. This mystic Oriental Masonry, because remember, the Masons of the Orient, so-called China, Tibet, Japan, the Cambodia, and all of those places, and India, and all those places, they were the keepers of our secrets when we were starting to fall. And we put the secrets all over the place. So we knew what was going to happen, and we went to build Egypt to have a place that even if all of this stuff above ground got wiped out, we would have a place where all the information would be preserved. And of course, then what happened is once the things happened and 1492 came and we fell fully, they rewrote the stories on us to let us think that ancient Egypt, Kemet, was always there, when ancient Egypt, Kemet, has always been here. Could I spell what? Oh, no, Tartary. Just look at Tartary. Yeah, a Tartary, and then you do then you can get you're going to get the information about Tartaria that's been lately coming up on the internet on the
142. Here's your steel. There's your paperwork. All you gotta do is hook up directly to the trailer and straight to guard shack. We'll close your door and connect the seals there. You know, I have to close your door to connect the seals. We'll do that at guard shack. Okay.
What is that?
Who is that?
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Huh. It's interesting some of the conversations that go on here. Oh well. Yeah, Tartaria or Tartary is actually what is now called like Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, um, Belize, and that lower part of Mexico. And where you will find that, what? Yeah, no, that whatever that is saying, I'm saying that's not where it is. You read about it and you hear about it because what it also talks about is that the story says that that whole civilization was destroyed under mud. Tartary, yes. Who is including that? Who?
Hasn't there been like a discovery of like a laser scanning of pyramid structures
In
like
Mexico?
yeah the lower parts of
Yes,
South America underneath all the
yes,
forestry?
yes.
So that must be the areas that you're speaking of.
Well, these areas don't go for like a couple hundred miles. They go for thousands of miles all over.
Mhm.
Okay, including right from Cuba. The big reason about the so-called Cuban Missile Crisis is because they didn't want anybody to go searching under the underwater just off the shores of Cuba,
Yeah, I've seen
because
pictures of that stuff.
there are things there under the water there that go for miles and miles and miles and miles. There's
Yeah.
stone construction that no part of them is broken.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that. They have like
Right.
sphinxes and
The whole thing, the
pyramids
whole
and different
works.
things. And
Byron, were you saying something?
Oh no, that wasn't me.
Hold on. So, the whole thing about this stuff is that the story has always been about the Americas. The Americas is where the story was. No, everybody else wanted to be in the Americas, but they were not able to because that was the land of the gods. I know for a fact that when I was a 5 and 6 and 7 year old, the national anthem for Belize was Land of the Gods by the Carib Sea. And then they suckers changed it in a few years. But there are records of it still. And because that is the okay, some wise guy have a mic turned open and a speaker on. That is that Reggie? Reggie, do you have a question?
I just came back on. My laptop had cut off, and I just came back on, and I didn't turn the mic off.
Okay, yeah.
Turn it off.
If you have a question, speak up at any time. But when somebody isn't talking, you know. Otherwise, if you could put your mic on mute, it helps because then the feedback doesn't go to everybody.
I'm cutting it off now.
Islam. So, you know, rather than my going through this whole thing to explain it, you can do a lot of the research about this whole area and about how Egypt, so-called over there, got there, and which one is here, and how long it was here, and that Jerusalem was over here in the south, Jerusalem is what it was not Jerusalem, because there was no J in the language, remember, until the 1600s or something like that. So how could you have had a Jerusalem? Correct. And so, you know, but Jerusalem was there. And if anybody spends any time looking at those monumental works in Peru and Ecuador and even Brazil and Colombia, you know, when we had the big drug war there and we were bombing all kinds of stuff in there. When I say we, I mean our surrogates were doing that. You know, they were actually stealing stuff from there. They were stealing all kinds of technology that were hidden over in those places. And they still can't reverse engineer them because they're dodo birds. But they tell you they're great and that they brought civilization to the world. And they're still not civil themselves, but that's a whole other story. So, you know, just to know the fact that all of this information is out there, to find it. And I am going to move, unless somebody has anything else about that particular thing, I'm going to move ahead a little bit because there's something that comes up that makes this quite interesting. Okay, you. I'm just going to go to right page 31. Where is this thing? Where we start that? Okay. No, move farther down. Okay, you move over there. And let's go. Okay, read some of this. Yeah, I'm jumping this part because they were just trying to justify, or actually telling a good darn story about it too. Here is right from here. The priests of the genuine orders have learned long ago, as the Christ taught, cast not pearls before swine, lest they trample upon them. Okay, I'm going to stop reading and I'm going to ask someone to read starting from right here, from all orders. Any volunteers, or do I need to volunteer somebody?
I volunteer.
Go ahead, please. Right, starting from all orders.
All orders are open to the people if they are willing to learn. Mystic Masonry opens the door to supreme initiation, but it cannot take the ignorant of the same footing as the learned, for he who knows not the A, B, C of education cannot become the teacher of Latin, nor can the ignorant of religion and philosophy become the teacher of these systems. The secret orders are open to those who are willing to learn and obey until such time as they are able to take care of themselves. All Masonry deals largely with ethics and symbolism of the ancient mysteries. The writer believes that through the well-timed efforts of Masons, today, the grandest achievements in knowledge are gained by man, which originally concealed in the greater mysteries of antiquity, and in time became lost to the world, may again be recovered in the strictest sense.
I'm moving up the page, so okay. Go ahead.
In the strictest sense, this knowledge has never really been lost, as there have been always existed those who were possessed of the great secret. It was originally veiled in order to conceal it from the profane, and written in a universal language of symbolism that the wise among all nations and throughout all time might read it, as it were in their own language. It was also written in parable and allegory, so that the unlettered and common people might not be deprived of its wise precepts and of its force in shaping character, dissipating ignorance, and inspiring hope. This ancient wisdom is the foundation from which all masonry takes its rise. The true science of symbolism as time became lost. The temples of initiation fell into decay or were destroyed by priests and potentates, jealous of their influence. For many weary centuries, men have been trying to recover the lost key and to restore the ancient wisdom from the parables and allegories in which it had been concealed. But progress in this inverse order is not only necessarily slow, uncertain, but all such attempts have more or less given rise to fantastic flights of the imagination and resulted in confusion rather than enlightenment. The result has been to bring the whole subject under contempt and to make the name mysticism mean something vague and uncertain, if not altogether foolish to those ignorant of its true meaning. It will be very naturally questioned whether any greater mysteries of antiquity existed, inasmuch as they were always concealed, never revealed to the profane, never published to the world, and only recorded in glyphic, parable, and allegory. It has already been shown that all attempts to discover the real secret by running backward from parable, allegory have resulted in confusion and discouragement. The interpretations resulting have been fantastic, varied as the genius of each investigator. Had any of these been possessed of a universal key to symbolism or a...
Okay, you see you got universal key. Did you finish the top? You stopped at universal key to symbolism. Okay.
And had or it was or a, and I think it continues on.
Right, right. No, or a complete philosophy is where it continues.
Yeah. Or you want me to keep going?
Yes. You go ahead to the end, just to the end of firm ground.
Or a complete philosophy of the secret doctrine, the result might have been very different. The solution of this question is not only greatly simplified when investigation is guided by such a philosophy or a complete key, but the investigator has the positive assurance at every step that he is on firm ground.
Islam. Before I move again, any comments or questions about what was just read? Islam?
Yes. What I got from that was all the school that we went through, college and other stuff. We never actually learned any truth. And
Correct. There is no
religion,
such thing. Yeah, those are not institutions of truth. Right.
yes. Even studying the scriptures, we've been studying backwards.
Yeah,
And we never received the truth in any of our studies, is what it's saying,
correct. Until you get keys,
until you
because
get
if you don't
keys.
have the keys, you can't open anything. And
That's
and the keys are not what people think. The keys are always flying all around you, but they'll only find what you're looking for when you find the keys. But they're always there. And this next piece of this gives you a pretty darn good idea what you need to look for, but it also tells you that even as this is telling you about it, they're telling you about masonry, which is ma and sunry, and really This is where Ma teaches the son, which is son or daughter, in the womb. Ma is supposed to be teaching the child before they're even born. So by the time they're born, and they're not B-O-R-N, they're B-O-R-N-E, to the place where they come out, from a place where they got in. Islam?
I was just going to say that even if you look in the Bible, it will tell you that the stories are allegory. If you
Big time in Corinthians, right?
Yes, in Corinthians.
All these things are allegories. What? All the things? Talk about Abraham, about Sarah, about Egyptians, about this one in the water, that one. All of that. They said all these things are allegories. And yet, I got my idiot brothers who teach it like that's God's truth. And I said, man, shut your stupid mouth. What the hell do you know? And they've been doing it for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
You
and
know,
I'm sure they know the word means.
they don't have a clue about what things are, though. But, you know, well, because God said you have to be wise about these things and the foolish will always question. Well, you're a fool if you don't damn question. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, okay, somebody else was.
Islam. This
Go
is
ahead.
like
Islam.
I was listening to this and thinking about it, and what it's saying to me is, yes, everything is there. And when you talk about allegories and parables, that gives us the opportunity to really go inside and to bring out what we know and see behind that allegory or that parable and understand what the meaning really is.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And when you recognize how much you were being taught as you were growing up, but because we were taught to take everything at face value. In other words, what they call prima facie evidence, which you know in court can never hold up. But we were taught that, you know.
And that was to keep us from really knowing the truth or the fact
about you, about self. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Victor, if you're going to speak, you need to speak up a little more because then we want, you know, at least have people hear you. Yeah. I don't know what I might have let us in for, but yes, we do need to hear you when you're speaking. Yeah. Well, because you got Peter to speak for you, right? Ptah. The dude that wears the pine cone in his head and has a pine cone on the end of his staff and wears a dress and molests little boys. You know, because men in dresses trying to impersonate things that they can't because they refuse to be who they really are because they think, and just because they don't understand the real esoterics of force and power. They know enough to seek to control, not enough to know how to control themselves. and I'm going to move on with it unless, Ines, you had something else to say about that?
No. Mm-mm.
Islam. Zarek, did you have something to say?
No, I'm good.
Islam. Okay. Um, I'm going to go ahead and do a little, no, unless somebody else wants to read from 27. There's some good stuff here.
This is Inez. I'll read.
All right, you got it.
There has always been a tradition in the Far East, and to be often traced more or less vaguely in the West, that the great lodge of the Magi, the Adepts, the perfect masters, known and designated also by many other names, has never ceased to exist. That this lodge has often, though secret and unknown, shaped the course of empires and controlled the fate of nations. That this is a fact beyond dispute has only lately been proven openly in the issuing of a secret mandate that the secret degrees of mystic Oriental Masonry should be worked, and by the appointment of a deputy Grand Master in America by the Supreme Order of the Universe. Such work has now become possible because of a cycle of liberality and enlightenment, when the workers are not likely to be sacrificed to the moloch of bigotry and superstition, granting that such masters exist. And my screen went dark.
Oops, because your computer went to sleep?
I don't know.
Yep.
It's back now.
Yeah.
Where was it? And they do exist, and that they are possessed of profound knowledge, that they are ready to help the world. The world must be ready and willing to receive such help, if it is to be benefited by it, instead of destroying its agents, guided then by a complete
philosophy.
This is not on my screen yet.
It's not?
No.
Oh. Well, let me make
Okay,
sure.
it came and then it went away.
Okay, that's
Okay.
move your mouse or something, so and click your mouse maybe, because your screen is going to sleep. That's why.
Okay. Philosophy, armed with the key of symbolism and aided by these grand masters, the lost mysteries of antiquity may be restored and made to tell their hoary secrets for the benefit of the coming ages. Only the perfect master can so chip away the stone as to reveal in all its grandeur and beauty the divine ideal, and endow it with the breath of life. Such is the building of character. The fable of Pygmalion and Galate is, after all, more real than history. The thread of history is not in isolate fact, joined by conjecture and wrapped and warped to the ignorant, bigoted, and time-serving opinions of men. The real thread is sought in the theme that runs through the symphony of creation that leads him from the clod and the lowlands, where hover the ghost of superstition and fear, to the mountains of light, where dwell forever inspiration and peace. Such ideals are the Christ Hiram and the perfect masters.
Yep. Okay. Such ideals are the Christ, Hiram, and the perfect masters. One of the things that anyone who believed that Christian stuff, when it said that the Christ is this and the other, all it is saying is that Christ is a degree in you. Has never not been a degree in you. And it's a degree that even when they tell you the allegorical story about how Christ is doing this or doing that and feeding 5,000 people with 7 fishes and 7,000 people with 5 loaves of bread, or some stuff like that, or turning water into wine and all that stuff, you know. all of those things are allegories which talk about certain things that people can do, which is why you see it says here such ideals are the Christ, Hiram, and the perfect master. Now, this Hiram dude for people who, if you're a member of one of the free or freed Masonics, by the way, if you're a Moor and you're one of those freed Masonics, get out. Come on. You got all the secrets already. They don't have a dang thing they can give you. Nothing. They can only try to hide what they have and let you think it's a whole lot more. You know, when they get you the grip, they got nothing. Islam. Uh-huh. Well, you know, people do these things because, again, they do. But hmm hmm and some of this stuff right here, um, this is interesting right here. But it says, no genuine Mason imbued with the spirit of liberality will treat any religion with derision or contempt, or exclude from fellowship any brother who believes in the existence of God, the brotherhood of man, and the immortality of the soul. Okay, let's stop there. Derision about spirituality or religion, no. But exclude anyone from fellowship, any brother who believes in the existence of God. Well, if belief is all you got, you need to move further in, because belief is a first degree of children only. If you can't get past belief, stay home in the playpen, because you should not be mixing with grown-ups talking belief. And anytime, by the way, this is going to civics now, whenever you go into the arena and you say you're going to court or you're going to any of these places and you start talking about, well, I don't believe this, I don't believe that, hey, you are going to do time or pay a lot of money to get out. Because they know you don't know what you're talking about, so they start calculating how much they're going to charge you, or they're going to throw your butt in someplace for lying about what you knew. So, but I'm going to go on. The brotherhood of man and the immortality of the soul. Now, anyone who reads the Quran know that the soul is not immortal, because immortality, well, let me correct that. Immortality means that the life that you're living can be sustained indefinitely.
You
And
never
in that
die.
sense, huh?
You never die.
No, that's not what immortality means. Immortality means that you can sustain the life indefinitely. Didn't say you never die, because you're sustaining it indefinitely, but it doesn't have life inherent to it, because the
Yeah,
soul is a construct.
that's what I thought. The soul never dies.
The soul, well, that's what we're told, but yes, because when you read in the Circle 7 Quran, it'll tell you that when that the body will pass and the soul will pass, but man will not. because man, and it puts it, and again, this is allegorical, man is a thought of Allah. And Allah is what we call the mind, but that's only a part of it. Because you really cannot, Allah is what you cannot describe by any name or set of names. Because to do that, you would be quantifying Allah. And when you allow yourself to have a name that you can be quantified by, as opposed to an aspect or a persona
Or
that
image.
you can, or well, an image, yeah. You can, because any of those things, they don't quantify you, they quantify or qualify an aspect of you. And so that aspect then is what you're presenting when you give yourself that particular name. But in order for you to be fully described, there aren't enough words or enough space in the entirety of creation to describe you fully. So when you start recognizing that, now you start knowing a little bit about yourself. Now let's talk about the immortality of the soul. It said, this Catholic spirit is the very foundation of Masonry. And by the way, Catholic spirit doesn't mean a Catholic church. Catholic is the body, is what it's talking about in the Catholica, which actually is a Latin word, which
Is it universal?
No, it means the body or the group, or this Catholic spirit, which is, again, there's only one spirit, but that's a whole nother talk. No.
Mm-mm.
Do your dictionary work for it, and you'll see. Because I don't want to go into to just get, but this Catholic spirit, the very foundation of Masonry, and any departure from it is un-Masonic and subversive of the ancient landmarks and genius of Masonry. True Masonry has for ages held aloft the torchlight of toleration, equity, and fraternity. The bigoted sectarians, whoever he may be, divides the world into two classes: those who with zeal and blind faith accept his dogmas, and those who do not. In its ritualism and monitorial lessons, Masonry teaches nothing in morals, in science, in religion, or in any other department of human knowledge or human interest not taught elsewhere in current forms of thought or by the sages of the past. In these directions, it has no secrets of any kind. It is in the ancient symbols of Freemasonry. That's a dirty lie. Freemasonry doesn't have any ancient symbols. They have symbols that we have given to them that are the more modern symbols. Freemasonry, in the ancient symbols of Freemasonry, that its real secrets lie concealed, and these are as densely veiled to the Mason as to any other, unless he has studied the science of symbolism in general and Masonic symbols in particular. In place of the term mystic Masonry, the term symbolic Masonry might have been used alone. But just here lies the whole secret, a profound mystery, and few Masons up to the present time have had the interest or the patience necessary to such investigation. This is a fact and not intended as either a criticism or a reproach. If lacking a knowledge of the profound meanings of Masonic symbolism and its transcendent interest and importance, Masons have allowed the whole organization not only to fail in all real progress, but to degenerate. That is indeed a reproach. What this book is talking about, because again, Secret Oriental Masonry, for people who have not spent any time really reading and studying the Circle 7 Quran, that's not a Bible, it's an operating manual of you. And if you're not paying attention to it, you don't know how to work yourself, and you can't learn how to work yourself. I would love to spend some time talking sometimes and working with elemental control and elemental command. I would love to work with people to do the certain things that are really what power and force control is all about. But before we can even get there, we have to be where when we start our lessons, we're not dealing with the mundane things, because you could learn and pick up on the mundane things so fast, and then you look through them and you see that they're really nothing but smoke and mirrors. And that the reality, all of the reality is in controlling the forces that you possess. But don't
Islam.
know how. Islam?
Yes, this is Eric. In regards to what you was touching on a minute, I mean, how much do food and what are you eating play a part in how do you get to this level? Because I know I'm trying to implement some type of diet, but it's really hard. So I'm just kind of like fighting two evils, trying to figure out.
Yeah. Zarek, it really, the foods will have effects on you, but the foods that you eat will increase whatever you are doing. You really, because your body is a top-notch synthesizer, except if you messed it up with taking a bunch of what they call hospital medicines and stuff. Your body is a top-notch synthesizer that literally, you see these idiots that run around trying to grab snakes and snakes bite them and they die?
Right.
Your body developed just doing the right thinking and the right things. Those snakes will come to bite you, and then they look and say, holy crap, that one knows what he's about. I'm not going to bite him. He's cool, because the snakes know what it is, and really the venom, your body knows how to flip that stuff in nanoseconds to either harm less or beneficial things for you. Remember you read in your Bibles about them, they should pick up the snakes and things won't happen to them and stuff? Allegory. But it is telling you about you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you eat is much more the choice of how you feel than that it's going to benefit or detract from your benefits. But there are some things that, are harder on the body. And one of the things about animals and why you want to try to cut down on that and move away from it as soon as possible is because when you eat the animal, you eat the fare and the poisons that fare releases in the meat.
Right. Yeah, the enzymes. Like if you kill a chicken, if you know
Right.
you're gonna kill a chicken, or his fear is gonna come in. The enzymes gonna come in his bloodstream.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
And that's where you pick up the cancers and blood and all the stuff, which you could cure that stuff easily by learning how to breathe properly. And learning, it is so easy. You are the preeminent medical professional in the land, in the building, in the world. But we let these guys who are practicing medicine work on us. They don't touch me, you know. Man, you know, they are learning how to read a chart, and when they're reading the chart, what they're really doing is learning and practicing astrology on you, because they really don't know it that well unless they've spent intensive times learning it. Yes. Islam, you were saying something.
I was agreeing with you, right?
Yeah. You know, they're learning astrology, and you know astrology, that if you even work a little bit at it, you become really good at it real quick. It takes 40 years for them to pick it up. Could take 40 days for you. You know, and less too, because when you really start knowing yourself, you bypass that easily, because you could literally go to the part where you are feeling the things happening in you and knowing exactly what to do with the feelings of them at all times. And you could, by knowing yourself, knowing the body that you're inhabiting right now, knowing how it correlates to Earth and how the messages are sent to it, the ley lines of Earth and stuff, literally by what is bothering you or getting your attention in some way, you could know what's happening any place in the world. You literally can do that. You could tap into somebody at 1,000 to 10,000 or 100,000 miles away and know what's going on with them. But you have to know yourself. And yes, but yes, and the one way you can do again is learn how to breathe. You control your breathing. Your breathing is the most powerful muscle you have. It controls everything in creation to the degree that you want to control it. The reason these people are trying their damnedest to keep you down is because they're scared of you.
True.
They're scared of you waking up and doing crap to them. Because if you wake up to who you are without the consummate abilities awake to deal with it, you do some mighty stupid things. Noble Joe Ali said, Moors, I'm not going to wake you all up because then I can't handle you. And you're going to break something. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a serious stuff. You know, that the ones who made the worlds, and notice this, the ones who made the worlds. I did not say the world. Okay, here's this. Would you just be walking down the street if a whole pack of hyenas come down the street right now and they are feral? Would you just walk right down to the street to the middle of them? No or no? Or hell no, right? see, that is what you're dealing with.
No,
And
lions are afraid of hyenas. Even lions are afraid of them.
yeah, and I brought that up just to make a point that compared to the hyena and the lion and the gorilla and the eagle and all of them combined, you are way, way, way beyond that. And these people know it.
Well, they also, like, I guess when they first came here, came in contact with us and knew that we had certain powers to heal, and they would start calling it witchcraft or voodoo or
yes,
stuff like that to depress our
yes,
gifts or our spiritual
not
knowledge
gifts,
that
not gifts. They're not gifts. They're normal abilities.
Ability, right.
Those were normal abilities you had until someone convinced you that those things aren't normal. You know, first they convinced your parents that it wasn't, and your parents helped them to convince you that it isn't, and then you became a good convincer of those that you agreed to help through the first years in this world. And so, you know, what they did was they created in us that trustee that takes care of all the lions. You get the trusty lion who's going to know exactly how to operate amongst you. That would be called like the dirty Moors, you know, and offer them something that they think they can't get otherwise because they've lost their minds. And that's the ones that they use to help control you. No, they know what your abilities are. We taught them that. As you read in Bibles where it says, and they will say to you, physician, heal thyself. And that's being said derisively. Physician, why don't you heal yourself? Yeah, entertainment, but they're poised to sprint in the other direction. Because if that sucker gets loose, you know, they know who. Yep. Look, if notice this stuff. Has anybody anybody here ever seen how the what are we going to call them, the highwaymen, when they're going to go after one of our people, how many of them show up?
Yes.
There's
Yes.
one that shows up, and that one is talking nice and not doing anything violent, and then you see 2 and 3 and 4, and they generally have 8, right? They usually have 8. Look at it, count it, count it. It's a ritual, and they're doing that because they are hoping that if you break out and you check out the numbers, you're going to say, oh, okay, I'm going to let them go. They at least knew something about it. And then if you don't do it because they want to make sure, they go pummel your butt. If you act anyway out of ordinary. But they're scared. That's why they come in those numbers. And even in those numbers, they know that they don't have a chance if you're awake and you want to stop them. They're so easy to take down. You know, that's not the stuff we should be looking for. We should be working not to take down anything, but to transcend those kind of things. And this is what, you know, this is talking about here. That, and that's the reason, by the way, why I'm dealing with this ancient mystic masonry, because I am really working within myself to help us move to that point where we can do some serious exercises that can help to move this thing along quicker. Question: who did the exercises at least 2 or 3 times in the last week that we did? Huh?
I have.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Who did it?
Inez.
Inez.
I
Who
have.
else? Okay. Lawanda? Victor?
No.
I'm talking about the exercises. You could call it what you want, but I'm talking about what it is that I ask people to do.
The breathing.
The breathing exercises.
Right. I did. Yeah, I did the breathing.
Okay.
I did it, Gail.
Okay. Just let me explain something about that. I do this every night when I'm laying down, sleeping or not, but I also do it when I'm walking around doing nothing or doing something. I also do it when I'm traveling someplace. And so I spend the majority of my time working in the non-physical realm, because from there I could affect everything easily in the physical realm and could literally control whatever I want to if I so chose. But I don't choose to do that, because my work is to perfect me and help anybody else to see how they can perfect them. And so any of the things that I do and I share and we talk about, it's not just to waste your time. It's to let you know that you are one heck of a whole lot more than your wildest imagination. And I don't care how wild your imagination gets. You're a million, a billion, a trillion times more than that. So people should really start to work. If you start to work in those areas and take the simple little things, one of the reasons I asked to do those exercises is because from them you will pick up stuff that you'll start to do other ones without me telling you a thing. Because your breath, remember what that is. That's the thing you've always been running around praying to, as the bleeding Holy Spirit. That's your Holy Spirit. Learn to use it. Your mind is your gardener. Islam?
Moor.
Yes.
This is Rebecca.
Yes, Rebecca.
When we talked the other day, I said that I was at last week, but it actually was week before last because we had a death in the family last week, and that's why I missed it. So I didn't get that lesson about the breathing.
It's on the, you can download it. You can download it or listen to it from last Friday.
Okay.
You receive the link. If you receive the link from me, you have at the bottom of that email how to access it.
I should have gotten a link since then, since last
No,
week.
nope. The
Oh,
first one that I sent out is the same one. I don't send out every week. It's the same one we use every week.
oh, okay.
And from that link, you could access. I don't. I have to take the time and go name the darn things, or at least put a date on them. No, they do have their date, so you could always check them by the date and catch the recordings. And and
Okay.
and I do say, do it because see this thing about Moors coming into their own and standing up isn't any of this foolishness about owning house and owning land and owning this and getting that. That's all nice, okay? Those things are all nice, but those things are like, the chump change of what this is all about. And like, like, I was even listening to Brother Taj the other day. I said, wow, okay, he's saying that. He must feel like the energies are high enough that he can pass that information to people now. Because one of the things he said, um, I was listening carefully as he was saying it. One of the things he said was that, you know, Moors come into this thing and they start, first thing they look about, they want to get house or land or control of these things. And do you know what land means? Land is really talking about the esoteric nature of you. Because Moors are land, but land is what comes out of things that we make. So we can't be just land. So it is what's being talked about is an allegorical part that you are. All that. And that's why we have what you call portable land. Anybody knows what portable land is?
Portable.
Portable
I
land.
know it's a, I know it's a real estate. I heard the term in real estate a lot. In real estate.
Anybody knows what it is?
Arable and livable.
Portable. What does portable mean?
Gold and silver
You
stuff you
can
can take
carry
with
it.
you.
What
It
does
can be moved.
portable mean?
Something that can be moved.
Huh?
Portable is something that can be moved.
Correct. You can move and carry it any place, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, Scheherazade, say that again, please.
Gold and silver
Portable.
things you can take with you.
Can you turn up your speaker a little bit, Scheherazade?
How about now?
Yeah, okay, and say what it is you were saying it is.
Gold, silver, coin, copper, diamonds, jewels of all kinds that you can take with you.
That's portable land. So next time you hear about portable land, now you know what it is. Okay? And I just brought that up for one thing so people can recognize, yeah, people can take land away. No, they can't take all the land away, but they can take portable things, and that's what people go into other countries and steal their resources, their known resources. But so that you can disabuse yourself of all the foolishness taught about this one. Know this, that anything that's taken out of the earth replaces it within about 9 months,
Well, I know how.
including gold and silver and oil and all the things.
Mm.
There is no such thing as limited resources.
Right.
Those are lies. But we have to disabuse ourselves of those lies. Then we can lose this feeling of lack, of not having, and then we can start operating as who we are. If you have any sense of lack, you can't be expansive because you are hoarding whatever you can so that you don't run out of it. That's why many people can't grow in knowledge and grow their knowledge into wisdom because they hoard what they have and want to sell it for a return, and so they get their return when they sell it. And that return is that they get increasingly less knowledge that can be turned into wisdom.
So, in short, I guess what I want to ask, how do the Moors define their culture? Like Chinese, you could say that's their culture, or Mexicans got a certain culture, just the definition of our culture.
Okay, Zarek, how do you define your culture?
Well, I really don't know how to define it.
Okay, that's a good question and a good answer. But the reason I asked you the question is because, see, you are the Moor.
Right.
Okay? And so you asked the right question because you are ready to get some more information about that. And how you will define your culture is, what do you consider to be culture?
Well, right off the top, I would say your heritage, something that you're known for, like whether it's food or it's like a certain food or something that passed down through tradition.
Right.
Whether it be your food, your clothing, your way of life.
Okay. Let's do a little easy thing with it. When we say Islam, in one is the first sense, we're saying peace.
Right.
When we say Islam, all caps, we're saying I self-law and master. When we say Islam, possessive, we're saying I self-law am master. All of those now are saying the same thing, but they're saying the same thing different ways. We would say, okay, a Moor would say, my culture is, well, I create. And that's my culture. I create. What do you mean? What you create? I create.
Life?
I create. What is it? I create. Because that's what I do. Only Moors do it naturally. Naturally. But we then teach others how to do it, not naturally, but they do it by repetitive learning of it. And remember now, Moors make up still about 90% of the world's population.
Right.
And everybody else makes up that less than 10%. And again, I did not say the world population, I said the world's population.
Right. So a Jamaican and being from Jamaica, you say, oh, that's okay.
If you're an Aboriginal native of any part of the Americas, you're a Moor. If you are an Aboriginal native of many parts of the East Africa, you're a Moor. The Middle East, you're a Moor. The islands of the Pacific, the Aborigines in Russia, in Turkey, in China, in Japan, all of those places. So, yeah, it's pretty huge.
Okay.
And
I
all of
understand.
those, yeah, all of those people are waiting for us to stand up because we are the ones that they recognize as the elder. They recognize us as the ultimate ancestor. And that's why they're wondering what the hell happened to them Negroes? How did they become Negroes? And that's the reason, if you could look at it, and I always ask this question, somebody will tell me something someday. When's the last time you know of any country that's out there anywhere came to fight a war on this land and were actually indiscriminately bombing and shooting and doing all kinds of things to the people? There is a time it happened, by the way. That's why I'm asking, when's the last time?
That another country came here?
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor.
Now you're talking about Japan and Alaska. Who came here?
Alaska?
Yeah, you're talking about in Hawaii?
Yeah.
That's not this land. And Pearl Harbor, they specifically hit the U.S.A military facilities.
The Spaniard?
That's you. Did you come and attack here?
France came to help, but no other one. Since England,
Now we must have to go back further then.
Yeah.
not since
The
England.
modern
British-
Europeans in the
British-
modern Europeans in the guise of explorers and discoverers. And they're the ones that did, and then they are the ones that we made the Constitution for and gave them refuge when nobody else would have them. And they are the ones that then said, because we gave them the refuge and we gave them the right of usufruct, that we gave them authority to do anything. And because of that, they then went around the world attacking everybody and come back running back here because they know that nobody is going to attack here. How did they generate the stuff to go over and attack Afghanistan and Iraq and bomb the crap out of all those places? They themselves blew up the World Trade Centers.
Yeah.
Or used the blowing up of the World Trade Centers as a guise to go after those people because they knew what was happening. We were waking up. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said the Moors would start to come awake in the year 2000. So we were
Mm.
Hmm.
It's
Well, the thing is,
science part of it.
the thing is, they're following the orders we gave them. They have never deviated from that except for the oligarchy that took over. But the people as a whole, they didn't deviate, but they know that in some ways they're complicit for not doing anything, and so they're worried that we'll do stuff to them that they did to us, or that they would have thought and made us think that they did to us. See, they know that you can't die. They absolutely know this. So they had to teach you about death and teach you to fear death. They know that nothing can be made without you, that nothing will stay together without your mind. But they have to make you think they're the ones doing it for you. Huh? Well, no, they know more about you than you know about yourself. That's why. If you make it the most important thing to start knowing about yourself, guess what? They're not going to bother you. They might only do it by accident, and the ones that do it by accident will be so forever sorry about that because their own will take them down.
They
Hmm.
had to make law they had to make laws up, back in the 1860s to put that fear in us that we shouldn't
Yep,
teach our children what we knew, or try and pass on what knowledge we had to our children in the early
right,
1700s.
right, correct. And remember, they did that through generational splitting. That is the
Right.
reason they are called crackers. And that's not a term I use just because I like to use it. That's the reason they're called crackers. They crack the family unit and then exploit it. They have to form the cracks, then they exploit the cracks, and that is how they then develop the schisms and make us fight each other and beat on each other. Hmm. And the only reason they can do that is because we think they have something to give us or something to keep us fearful of. What that is? Death. Hmm. Hmm. But you
Yeah.
know what? Here's the thing about that now. That, be, yeah, Because the thing about it, and 1,000 monkeys is them, because that's how they learned. Okay, you know, oh, they really are the monkeys. Okay, you know, yeah, they really are. And so you know, this is all the stuff that, look, if we stop dealing with worries and fears, we can fix anything we think is a problem overnight. It's generally because you think you don't have and you won't get and you can't get that you don't get. And when I say generally, I mean in every sense. That's the general rule. Because whatever you think as a pattern of whatever you're doing, that's what you get. And I look at the hardest head that you deal with, and it generally takes about, if even if you fight it, if you start getting information and start being around information that gets you to start to develop, it takes between 3 to 6 months to pretty much fix yourself to be able to self-maintain. No matter how hard hit. And one of the reasons for that is because the DNA is recombinant, it will, whenever the environment changes in any way around it, for any time that one starts accepting the stuff, the DNA makes the adjustments for it. It makes the adjustments and says, okay, we're going to produce more of the ones that do that because that's what's keeping him happy and he's working or she's doing it, so let's do that. And so then this so-called junk DNA wakes up and overnight, you know, you wake up the next morning wonder, how the hell do things look so good now, or how do they change? Because you changed them. That's part of your nature. And there is no limit to your nature. You just have to spend time studying it. Study who you are. Know yourself. Then be yourself. And we're at 11:17. In about okay, we're gonna. If people want to stay, I'll stay for the next 13 minutes. But in the next 5 minutes, we're gonna do a little exercise, a little add-on that you will take to add on to what you did the week before. And it'll be an add-on because you want to use what you did and you just add this into it at the same time you're doing it. But we'll do that in a couple minutes. And if anyone is thinking about what
brother Jeremiah.
Yes.
The first exercise, that's on a previous. You said that's on one of the previous broadcasts. I can
that's last Friday.
Last Friday, okay.
It's last Friday's class, yes.
Okay.
And yeah, it's you can pull that down easy. It was simple breathing exercises, but simple breathing exercises are such powerful things that let me and I'll just tell you how powerful those things are. The last time I went into any type of medical facility for anything was about 21 years ago. when I went in there, then they told me I had just stopped. I had just really stopped working out in sports and competing because it was getting tough. Because the I was doing mostly training by that time, but the young athletes I was dealing with, I was still going up against them, and my mind, of course, doesn't know that it hurts more. Well, it knows, but it says, let the fool go. And I would go up against them, and, I started seeing that, man, when I got hit, where I used to recover first in hours, then in days, then in a week or so, it was taking 2 or 3 weeks. So if I kept working out with them 3 or 4 times a week, I had so many ouches by the end of that week that, it was bad. And so I started saying, okay, I'm going to stop doing this stuff. And as a result of that, I started thinking about all the things I didn't like, and I started to get sick. And then I go to the doctor. Okay, I'm getting so. I'll fix it. I started to get sick and go to the doctor, and I go to the doctor, and I would get the first thing they told me I had hypertension, and so they gave me some pills for that. Then the next thing, about 2 or 3 times later, when I went back up, I was diabetic. Got some pills for that. And then they told me that I was having hyperthyroidism. Got some pills for that. And then they told me that I'm getting throat cancer. I said, okay, how did that happen? They started to explain all kinds of stuff to me about how this happened, and I said, well, when I read all of these things, this one says it'll give you that, and that one says it'll give you that. So what can I do? They said, well, we just have to put you on the pills, and, eventually, essentially they're saying you're going to die. I didn't agree with that prognosis, so I just decided, for all these years, I hadn't been sick, had never spent a day in the hospital, had never, I'd gotten broken fingers, broken stuff, and the heck, they healed in weeks. So I'm not going to keep doing this. So I need to work at a different way to get myself cured. So what I started to do then, I started to do the very things that I was doing when I was first curing myself of asthma, because I knew that I had done that. So I started to just use, without all the running and all the stuff, I started to use the breathing and the visualization. And I also started to wean myself off whatever the pills they were giving me, and I never went back to them. So by 3 months' time, I had weaned off of all the pills, and I was doing my exercise. I started to feel good. And I said, oh, okay, I'm just going to keep doing more and more of that. And we got a snorer. Oh, and by the time, I would say about 4 months after that, I was fine. And since then, I've never had a reason to go visit those monkeys. And that's just from using just the breath. And then I started studying more about it because I started remembering many of the things that I could do when I was younger, and picked up pretty quickly that, oh, they're still here. All I had to do was work with them. And then about 12, I would say, no, more like 14 years ago, I actually started working seriously working at Elemental Command. And that's when I found out that, oh, that's interesting. And that you could control weather and every other thing with your mind. Now, after I found those out, I started reading and learning and seeing things about it, and then I started getting information that wasn't readily available, but that just seemed to show up wherever I looked because I was looking for it now, and got more and more and more into that. Um, and so what I'm sharing with you is not stuff that I read out of books, but stuff that I was my own lab. And you too can prevent forest fires. Mm-hmm. 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 Correct. Yep. Mm-hmm. It happens with everybody, but generally what happens because we ignore it, and after a while, you ignore something, it'll go away. It doesn't leave you, but it just stops bothering you, and your brain shuts it out. Anyway, um, exercise time. Um, folks, for about a minute, just clear your mind of all your worries that you have, and just breathe. You're going to slow down your breathing. Whatever your flow is, you're going to slow down your breathing to six. No, we'll go seven. 7 breaths a minute. Okay, and you're not going to do that now. No, we're dealing with that later on, not right now. Okay, Victor, clear your mind. And as you're doing that, start visualizing that you're by a running water, by a stream that is really sweet drinking water, and you're hearing the water running by you, and it's not exactly a babbling brook, but it's just a really neatly running stuff, and there are no mosquitoes or anything like that around it because the water is running, and the wind is nice and cool, but the sun is out, and everything is just nice, just right. And now, as you're sitting and you're not crossing your legs or doing any of this weird stuff that people think you have to do, just sit how you're comfortable. And as you're there, now you're going to take, and those same breaths that you were breathing at, everybody should be now nice and calm about it. You start sensing from your tailbone, just for a minute, put your mind on it. And when you put your mind on it, sense, as you put your mind to it, there's a little tingle in it. And you breathe into that little tingle. Just breathe like normal breath, but you're breathing it right into that. And it's in and then out, which means you pull in a breath and you direct it into there. And then you still do you're still working at the 6 breaths a minute. And then as you push it out, you push the tingle down and then kind of bring it up, like you're bringing it up through your legs, but stop it right at your privates. Stop the tingle there and hold it. And as you hold it, see it expand just a little bit. You know, it's just expanding a bit, and it's pulsing. And then you breathe into it again. Breathe into it, and it'll expand more. And then as you exhale, you pull it up. Now you're going to pull it into a place just below your navel. It's not at the navel, but it's just below it. It's called your dantian, but we don't need to go into all of that yet. And then you just feel it tingle in there. By now it's starting to grow a little bit to it's bigger, so you can feel it more. It's not just a tingle now, it's actually a little vibration. And so now you breathe into it again, and then you exhale, and as you exhale, you pull it up into your solar plexus. Everybody, your solar plexus is right between your navel and what you would call your heart, about halfway there, where you'd call like punch you in the gut. And then you pull it into your solar plexus, and now when you have it in there, you hold it for a minute, not for a minute, for like a 5 count, and then you breathe into it. And this time when you breathe into it, you, at the end of that breath, you just puff like, and hold it there. And now you exhale, and as you exhale, you pull it up into the center of your chest, right into the middle, and it'll be pulling up into your heart chakra. It's not any place on the sides, it's just bring it straight up. And then you hold it in there. And now when you hold it in there, you want to breathe in and out 3 times. And each time you breathe into it, you hold it for a 3 count, and then you breathe out, and then you breathe into it again, hold it for another 3 count, breathe out, then you do it a 3rd time. When you do it the 3rd time, you actually kind of push a little bit on that breath, push that breath so it pushes it out, pushes out the sides of the tingle. But then you hold it there, and now, as you're done with that, you exhale and you pull it up into your throat. Pull it up into your throat. And when you pull it up in there now, feel that you have just moved into a new place. You've moved into the throne room or command center. This is the first time you're experiencing being in there charged up, but you're not ready to do anything yet. You're just getting familiar with it. And so you hold it, you feel how everything feels in there, kind of expand and contract a couple times. And then you breathe in once, hold it for a 3 count, and then when you exhale, you will pull up into right between your eyes, that spot that Goliath got hit in, or that the Cyclops looks out of. You pull it into that, and now you get your eyes closed as you've done that. And as your eyes are closed, now you kind of bring your 2 eyes so that they're looking at, like they're looking at the tip of your nose, but closed still. And that'll give you a little focus and a sense of what your other eye is doing. And now you breathe into that, and if you see any colors changing or anything of that nature, you're good. If you don't see anything happening, you're still good. And now you're going to breathe into it once, and you breathe into it slowly, but you're breathing and you're kind of fattening it up as you put it in, like you're blowing a balloon. And it won't be any bigger than like a tennis ball by the time you get done with it. And then you hold it there, and now you take another breath, and then you exhale, you pull it up right into the top of your head, into the crown, and you leave it there for a minute. And feel how there's a little bit of warmth that's in there right now. And in fact, it gets pretty warm. And now, the last part of what you're going to do is you breathe in, take a deep breath, then push that breath into the tennis ball, right where it is up at the top, and then take another breath, and you push it towards the tennis ball, and then you do pushing it straight up. all the way up. It's going to go out your head. And what's happening at the bottom of your feet now? Just feel it for a minute. It doesn't matter if you don't feel anything, but there is something going on. And now just do 2 more breaths, regular. And regular means 6 or 7 breaths a minute. Just do 2 of them. And then just relax. And rest yourself. Just move your hands a little bit, kind of shake them up like you're shaking because your hands are tingly or something. Just shake them up a little bit. And relax. And what we just did, we just went through a cycle that gets you actually a full cycle of Kundalini exercise. That the things you went through there are a couple other points that can be used, but you don't want to use them yet. And we'll talk about them when you get to use them. And what I'll do is I'm actually going to share a chart with you next week. Actually, I'll send the charts for anyone. I have all your emails, I believe, who are on the call. And I'll send the chart for you. And you will actually see what you just did in the chart. And again, you are now in control of starting your own Kundalini opening exercises and to start your pyramids. By the way, when we started reading this, it was talking about the pyramid. Pyramid means fire in the midst. And what we were doing just now was just kind of stoking a little bit. Don't overdo it with this, and don't try messing with the top ones before you deal with the lower ones. Always start from the bottom. If you don't start from the bottom, that means you don't have enough quantum built up, and anything that you try to move from any place before the bottom won't have anything to work with. And so the exercise will just be that you're playing at breathing then, but you're not really stringing the sticks together that gives you the power that lights up any of that. And by the way, if you did experience any of the vibrations, anybody wants to talk about it? Not you, Victor. Anybody else experience vibrations in any of the places where you stopped? Did everybody go to sleep?
Yes. No, I didn't.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Anybody that a quick little something that you experienced?
Yeah.
One at a time.
Go ahead.
Not you, Victor. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I've been doing some meditation for about a year now, and I
Uh-huh.
know that my third eye it has been activated, and so when we do this exercise, I feel the vibration in the middle of my
Hmm.
forehead and at the top of my head. So I'm kind of used to this experience. But I'm still learning how to still need more information. Still need more information.
Yes, yes, and you can do you just the same thing you did. You can use that very same exercise once, twice, three times a day if you want to. And just remember the points that every time you go into the points, you when you pull up into any of them, you want to breathe into the vibration to charge it up more in that point. Because when you breathe in, you're actually pulling charge from that point, and each point is putting its own charge into it and building an encryption. And that encryption is the keys that are going to happen as you start dealing with working and knowing how to work the love energy and the love frequency. That's the stuff that's going to build it up to the point where you can really, at will, start running this stuff up and lighting up the chakras as you're going up and really turning on turning back on your so-called God powers. Because this is where you're going to get to the point where if your eye is single, your whole body is full of light. But if your eye is dark, your whole body is full of darkness. Well, we're looking to light it up. And you do these things, the reason you clear your mind before you start to do them, because if you don't, and you're starting to do stupid stuff with it, you're going to hurt yourself. And if you think you're using this stuff to do anything to harm anybody else, okay, you can do it, but it'll kick your ass 10 times as much as you give to them. And it can be serious. So recognize that's why you clear your mind and keep things right. You're not going to recover those powers and forces and control of them to any great degree if you've got things in mind that have to do with damage or hurt other people. So keep that in mind. It's very important. Anybody else had any experience they want to talk about?
Sort of
If you
missed a lot of that.
Islam,
I sort of missed a lot of that. I'm driving a truck while I'm out here driving this truck over the road. So
I hope like hell you weren't closing your eyes when you were driving the truck.
yeah.
Okay, let me say this. If anybody is driving when you're doing these exercises, you can do them, but don't close your darn eyes. Okay?
right. Right.
Unless you already got the third eye really doing its thing, don't close the eyes. It's a bad idea. Islam.
Right.
Was anybody else had something to say or wanted to say or ask anything? If you want to talk and you have your mic muted, none of us will hear you. Okay, Shahrazad, were you saying something?
Islam,
Islam.
the feet did get warm under the bottom,
Who?
and the feet under the bottom warm,
Oh, uh-huh,
and the top of the head got warm where the tennis ball came through. It's
uh-huh,
it's like it seemed like it's just hovering right there, like
right.
spinning, just still there hovering.
Hmm.
And when it got to the it did make the tingle and the growth,
Mm-hmm.
the throb growth and everything in the stomach. When I got to the stomach, it got a
Mm-hmm.
little sick feeling around in there and
Mm-hmm.
caused a slight stomach ache, but now it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can feel it in your throat and everything, just like with the breathing. It was
Yeah.
exactly like you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
that tingly feeling, and it's like a caduceus when it gets to your neck and it goes on up. How the snake head's wrapped around the
Mm-hmm.
pole, but like the two come together again when it gets up in there
Right.
on the caduceus, and it was the tingly and the sensation, the warmth, and everything.
As you
Yeah.
as you
So
become as you become adept at doing that sort of stuff, what happens? You can do it rapidly. You literally can do it in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Islam?
Islam.
Did somebody else say something and then cut off, or any other comments?
I did. This is Rebecca.
Yes,
I didn't.
Rebecca.
I didn't really feel that much sensation until it got to my throat, and
Okay.
then from then up, I felt more, and I felt the throbbing in my
Uh-huh.
top of my head. At, after that,
Mm-hmm. What did you feel in your throat?
well, it was kind of it was a tingling sensation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't really recognize it until I got to that point for some reason.
Okay. That's okay. When you do it again, you will, with repetition, things happen. It's very rare when you get all of it going at the same time, but you charge all of them. And it's
Right.
important that you charge each one. Okay? So, um, the sequence is again, you start from the tailbone and you work around and then up.
Okay.
Okay, you don't start from up to come down, but you can work where you go up all the way up each one, and then you could bring that back down. But you don't want to do that yet because you want to work at dissipating some of the energy as it's coming down, especially
Right.
because top down energy is hugely more powerful than down to up energy. And so it takes, as you're coming down with it from the top, you're building the next lower chakra, but you're leaving a lot of the stuff up at the last one that you're at.
Okay.
I'll explain that later at a different time. Um, and what I'm doing is really going through a kind of a rapid sequence of things that will, again, if we're still doing this in 3 to 6 weeks, you'll be you'll be having lucid dreams and all kinds of stuff going on way before that. And some of you could actually have lucid dreams tonight. And if you do have lucid dreams, don't get scared because when you go to sleep is when you actually wake up. And when you think you're awake, you're really sleeping. Well, you really aren't. Yeah, you're not awake. You're really sleeping then. When? Well, because be, because you, and again, let me correct something I might have answered there, kind of out of phase. When you, because of the way you have been working and you've been doing it this, and you were, how long did you train in martial arts? Okay, and you've been doing that all the time. Yeah, so you, yeah, you literally, you are actually in your waking time. You're not so much what you'd call the walking dead. You're actually able to do it, to do the things while you're quote unquote awake. You're still doing your dream time stuff, and that you're controlling your brain more, and so you can do things that your mind can work with you more. Okay, so you don't need a lot of sleep. I never needed a lot of sleep. I generally, when I since I've been a child, only on the last year or so I've been sleeping 6 hours or so. I used to never sleep more than 3 to 4 hours, ever. Yep. Well, that's good. Natural or normal is not the place you want to be, because that means you're normalized, which means you're fitting inside that 85 to 90%. You, yeah, yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Somebody calls me normal. I say, oh crap, I'm gonna have to go cause something now, because I don't want to be normal. You know, that simply means that you're fitting in perfectly in whatever box they put you. Hey, they're all, yep, yeah. So we are at the good time to get this thing done. So unless anybody else has any questions or comments about anything, I will be getting ready to say hasta la vista. So any questions or comments before we go? That means no. I'm gonna I'm gonna take that as no, and in that case, I will be shutting down because there's got a little work to do. It's been nice spending
No.
the evening with you all.
Islam, thank you.
Islam,
Islam.
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 Thanks.
Good company, good company. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Damn Victor. Weird dude. ah, ah. I will say guten Tag, mein Herr and Herrens. Exactly.
This session is no longer being recorded.
That was good evening, good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. What? Yeah. Go fight with a tree. I don't know. No, I'm not aware of that one because I don't do lightning strikes. I've sat out in the middle of them and they don't mess with me. Hmm. Well, that maybe there's a particular charge or a particular frequency that you have that attracts it, or you're just grounding and you're the brightest thing around. It said, hey, there's a good conduit to the ground. Slow down and breathe. I'm gonna go though, because I got stuff to do still. And so I really say good night, and I'm gonna be shutting this down. Yep. Let's get the elemental control done, and then you'll be able to actually dance with the stars too, and with all the elements. Yeah. Well, they're all on you. I'm out.